Thank you so much for coming today. We are really, really excited to have Mr. Franke here today, and David Franke as well. So before I officially pass the mic, I just want to make a quick thank you to the business organizations who put this event on for you guys. Today we are going to hear from Mr. Bill Franke. He likes to travel, so I hear. He is currently the managing partner of a firm called Indigo Partners, who has selected several interns to work for them over the past several years. Very exciting opportunity, and he is here today to tell you a little bit about himself, his work, and his relationship to the business college. So, without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Franke.
Thank you very much. I might start with a little bit of background. I was born, I'm from Texas. I was born in a small town called Bryan, Texas. Was in the State Department. I moved to South America when I was a young boy. I lived in Paraguay, Argentina, and Brazil. I graduated from high school in Brazil. So I came up with two friends of mine. We made we've all done this in our lifetime. There were three of us that were close pals in high school, and we all agreed to go to the same U.S. university. We flipped a coin between Yale and Stanford, and we ended up, all three of us, going to Stanford, move through the process on a more expedited basis, and I got my undergraduate degree in 3 years. And I then went to Stanford Law School and finished that program in 2 years instead of in 3. So I graduated from law school. I was 22 years old. In Southeast Asia, Uncle Sam grabbed me, and I went off to infantry school, became an infantry platoon leader, and eventually wound from there through the Army Intelligence School and worked for an Army intelligence outfit in Washington, D.C. for what I thought it was going to be 2 years, but I was extended for an additional year, and I eventually became nominated what they call a mobilization designee. They had in those days that if the Great War ever came, this was during the Cold War, and people were worried about what might happen to Washington in the event of a nuclear attack. So there was a shadow Pentagon that was developed that would be put in place in the event of a national emergency. And for whatever reason, I was one of those people nominated as that. So I got out of the Army after, as I said, 3 years of active duty, and lived in Spokane, Washington for a while, practiced law, got involved in the business community and in business life, which I found more to my suiting than law school. In '69, about this time of the year, I was offered the job with a small forest products company headquartered in Phoenix that was looking for someone to manage their corporate development program. Here I joined that company, which was called Southwest Forest Industries. It had annual sales of $69 million, so it was a small potatoes company that had a sawmill here in Flagstaff, a sawmill in McNairy, a sawmill in Reserve, New Mexico, and it was constructing a paper mill in Snowflake, Arizona. I pretty rapidly rose through the ranks in the company, and we grew pretty dramatically from that $69 million to about $1 billion in revenue. In the process, I just said, I can't do this. This isn't, it just doesn't make good business sense to me. And about that point, and I got fired. And I got fired I was in a hotel in New York City. We were about to close a large financing. And I was a company officer, and I was there to sign the documents. And the board had authorized me to sign the documents, and no one else. And my CEO and I got in a big hassle that evening about where I thought the strategy of the company was going, and he fired me. And so the next morning when we had this closing for the $150 million that the company desperately needed, there was no one to sign the documents. So he came down to my hotel room, woke me up and said, "You're rehired." Took a senior operating officer and made him the CEO of the company. And his job was to run the operating end of the company, and my job was to clean it up. So I spent about 3 years, 4 years almost, selling off pieces of the company. And this is delicate stuff because publicly listed company, and we were listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We were a Fortune 500 company at the time. You cannot take large losses on dispositions of businesses without some thought being given to the impact it would have on your share value. The board, uncertain of what to do in the face of this conglomerated company with all these different businesses, asked me to take the role of executive vice president and assistant chief executive. The senior operating officer had reached retirement age and wanted to retire, and the board named me the president and CEO. I spent, before that occurred, I spent 2 years off running our operations in the Pacific Northwest, which were a bunch of lumber and plywood mills, so that I had hands-on operating experience before I took on the larger company. And we decided at that point in time that we had to either grow the company in its businesses, or we had to find a way to partner up with someone, because the businesses we were in were very cyclical. If you think about lumber, plywood, paper products, they're commodities that are tied to the economic cycle of the country. So we either were in a boom or bust environment for our company in a business that required significant capital in order to stay competitive. At the end of the day, our stock was trading at about between $11 and $13 a share on the New York Stock Exchange, and I was able to negotiate a merger with a like-sized paper company based in Chicago called Stone Container. And at that merger, our shareholders got $32.50 in cash, and they thought they'd all died and gone to hell. I could have gone to Chicago and run the combined company. I didn't want to do that. I looked at a variety of different opportunities, decided I didn't want to pursue them. I wanted to remain in the Phoenix area. I was a director of what was then the largest regional bank in the area called Valley National Bank. It's now JP Morgan Chase. Board member of the board of directors, and I had a sense that the bank was kind of drifting off away from its basic premises, and I acquired some understanding of what makes businesses work through my experience in Southwest. And I became chairman of the executive committee of the bank, and eventually brought in a new management team and spent about a year fixing the bank up and bringing in new management and organizing it from a systems perspective. I got a call one day from the man who controlled Circle K. You've all been to Circle K, I'm sure, somewhere or another. At that point in time, Circle K was actually much larger than it is today. It had 5,500 stores nationwide, 25,000 employees, and didn't make any money. It had to go through a bankruptcy to get cleaned up. Spent a better part of 2 years getting that company straightened out. And I had just filed the plan of reorganization in the bankruptcy process when I got a call from the then governor of Arizona, Fife Symington. And Fife said, well, Bill, we have our local hometown airline, America West Airlines, employs 6,000 people in Arizona at that time, and it was in bankruptcy. And I, like you, had just flown the airline and was a passenger and a customer, didn't know much about it. I knew it had ups and downs, but that's about what I knew. And Fife said, so would you help me by going out, let's talk to the management team to see if there's anything we could or should do in order to try to save these jobs. So I went out and had a discussion with the airline management team, talked to a couple of the major creditors like General Electric and Boeing. Thought in my mind there was probably something to do here that, but I wasn't, of course, experienced in the sector. And I agreed to be involved for 6 months, and I became chairman in July of 1992. Non-executive chairman. That is to say, I didn't go down there every day. I just simply worked through the board to try to develop a strategy for the airline. And it became clear that the management team and I were not on the same page, and a well-publicized series of confrontations, which made the front page of the Wall Street Journal at the time, I replaced all the management. And I became the CEO in January of '93. And by August of '93, the airline, we converted the airline, brought it around to profitability, and there was a clear path for the airline to move forward. And I told the board I would stay until the airline got out of bankruptcy, which was mid-1994. And of course, I ended up staying total of 9 years. Tough place to do business. The airline sector is a fascinating if you're intellectually engaged. It has a lot of moving parts. Every time you get on an airplane, you complain about all the issues about getting you to your seat. You ought to try to get you to that. Moving parts that boggle the mind, and the airline management has little control over big pieces of it, big capital, parts of it you can't control, and of course the human factor, because you see the airline from the standpoint of the people that fly it, service you, manage you in one process or another. So it's, if you like management, it is a fascinating place to be. When I got ready to depart, I decided I wanted to create an investment fund that would be focused on airlines. I'd already created an investment fund as a sidebar to focus on Latin America, where I had a history, and we'd invested using institutional money, about $400 million in Latin America. And I now wanted to create a fund that was focused on airlines. So I created Indigo Partners in 2003, roughly, 2002, 2003. And its focus was to be an investor in the airline sector worldwide. I had a theory that the Southwest Airlines model, which is, in your mind, low-cost, low-fare model, that model had a lot of applicability outside the United States in markets that were emerging. So that as people needed to get off of a bus and on an airplane, they needed to find a product that matched up with their income level, that gave them air service at a reasonable price. In 2004, we made our first investment, which was in an airline based in Budapest, Hungary, that flies the old Soviet Union. So it flies the Ukraine and all those former Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and it flies from those markets west toward London, and with a low-fare, no-frills model. And we were tweaking the model as we went along. This is the first time the model had been tried in Eastern Europe, and it turned out to be a very successful idea. And we still control that airline today. The second investment was in an airline in Southeast Asia, where I saw the same dynamics, and we created an airline based in Singapore called Tiger Airways, which flew out of Singapore to Southeast Asia, and eventually to Australia, within Australia, and today the Philippines and China. And we followed that same pattern of looking at geographies and emerging economies, and created airlines in other parts of the world. We today have an airline in Mexico, one in the U.S., the one still in Eastern Europe, and the interest we have in Tiger in Singapore. And at any given time, we're looking at opportunities on a worldwide basis. So that's kind of the career that I've had, and it's been, as I look back on it, pretty remarkable if you just think of the stops I made along the path. You couldn't really write that story. A lot of it was just circumstance. I happened to be at the right place at the right time. For example, when the governor called me about America West. But a lot of it is because you're there and people know that you have the capacity to deal with their issues. So they are interested in attracting your attention. Now, how did we get to NAU? Well, having lived in Arizona a long time, as I said, when I ran Southwest Forest, we had a mill here. We had both a particle board mill and a sawmill here. And when the company was merged with the firm in Chicago, they weren't interested in the wood products side of the business, so they fairly methodically closed all those mills, and the mills here were eventually closed. But I knew Flagstaff pretty well, and we as a family, through a family investment vehicle, actually owned the NBC television station here in Flagstaff for a number of years. So I would have regular trips up here for meetings with the management of the television station. And I liked Flagstaff. And I liked what I saw of the school because I felt it was a place where teaching and interaction between the students and the faculty were still important issues. That nobody had gotten bigger than themselves here. That the students could still understand that they had a relationship, and the professors and the teachers and lecturers could understand the value they were providing you in the process. We wanted to make a gift to education. The family has a tradition of giving, and we wanted to make a gift to education. And we looked at U of A and at ASU and at NAU, and we asked for proposals and had some discussion at a high level with each of the universities. And I don't know by what stroke of good luck, but you have a president here, John Hager, who could be a president of almost any university in the U.S., I'm convinced. Very entrepreneurial guy who has practical, understands what it takes to push process forward. Academia is not noted for change. I mean, I see some of the faculty at the back of the room, they'll attest to the fact change does not come easy inside an academic system. But John Hager has been really good at methodically and logically pushing for change at NAU, and it has been, as a result, a very successful effort. And you have been the beneficiaries of it. So we looked at all that and looked at the history and sat down and talked to each of the universities about what we wanted and what they could give us. And I won't name the other universities, but if I went to one of them and said, we're particularly interested in the fact that almost all of the college graduates we see can't write, see, can't run. I mean, I'm sorry to say you all probably think you're going to be wonderful authors, but our experience with you, in large part, is you can't write. You just can't write. I don't know what happened to us. Maybe our technology has overwhelmed us, but the fact is you can't. So we wanted to make sure that the students in the university we supported would have some opportunity to understand how to communicate beyond their BlackBerries or their iPhones. And so NAU said, yep, we're with you on that. So we'll have a communication center here, which we think hopefully all of you will start taking advantage of so that we can begin to develop NAU as a place where when the graduates show up at somebody's place for employment, they go, oh yeah, NAU, they know how to write. That'd be good. Secondly, we wanted to take a look at how we could help a state which has a changing demographic. Significant influx of Hispanics. We have a large Asian population. We have a large Native American population. The state has a history of first year, first generation, first child out of a family to attend university. Those are very important to us. And NAU excels in all of those areas. So we fashioned our program around helping those who needed the opportunity. And NAU is, as I said, we're willing to engage us on all of those issues. And just because it's my nature, this wasn't just a gift that was just tossed up and said, do with it what you want. There's a piece of paper that has what we in the university have agreed upon that we want, and the university has, without exception, performed against that, those objectives we agreed upon. A couple of the other universities we talked to went like, no, we don't do that. Happy to have your money, but we'll manage it, we'll be in control of it, and you can drop by and see us once in a while, but that's about it. Well, that was inconsistent with the commitment we wanted and the fact that we wanted to see change develop. And so that's how NAU became the focus of our giving. Not one of my family members has gone to NAU, not one. So it isn't, there was no predilection toward you. It was because analytically we thought this was the best place for us to put our money and our effort. So thanks to you, that's why we're here.